we want to hear a little bit about what it's like being speaker in Virginia, really being a champion on this particular issue, given the kinds of attacks you've faced, and the type of rollbacks your legislation has withstood. So if you can tell us a little bit about that, and then we're going to let him rush off.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Yeah, good. Okay, good afternoon. Thank y'all for having me here. I want to thank Reform for the work that you do. It's amazing work that you do. It's you don't get a lot of gratitude for doing this kind of work. That's not a strong constituency for helping folks who've been incarcerated. Most of the time they shame us into putting our head down. How many folks got family that's been impacted by incarceration? Most of us, when you're in those rooms and they talking crap, y'all don't say nothing. We quiet. We know it's true. We don't know how to speak up. I'm Don Scott. I'm the very first Black Speaker of the House in the 405-year history of the oldest democracy in the Western Hemisphere in Virginia. 1619 is real. That's when it started. The first Black folks that were brought in Virginia. This is the first time we've ever had a Black speaker. I have a commitment to criminal justice reform because I was incarcerated. I did 10 years in the feds on a drug conspiracy. Folks told me my life was over. Keep your head down, shut up, don't speak up. And I decided that I wouldn't listen to them. And I would go ahead, and I'm an attorney now, so don't feel sorry for me. I'm rich, y'all. I'm good. But I love it. But with that freedom also comes responsibility. And so in 2019, I decided to run for office. Everybody told me you're a felon, you can't win, blah, blah, blah. But I had these praying Black women on my team.
That part.
And they would not let me believe in anything else other than excellence for myself and to follow my dream. So I decided to run for office. I won in 2019, was sworn in 2020. One day I'm sitting on my couch around Christmas in 2021. And I'm looking at my phone on Twitter, and my Twitter is blowing up. And it turns out a friend of mine had tweeted that we need to do something about probation reform. And then I said, well, I'm going to drop a bill next session. This was in December. I'm going to drop a bill in January. So Meek Mill retweeted me. I'm like, I got 1 million likes on this thing. What the heck? I got like 400 followers. Right? And so he retweeted me, and then Van Jones reached out to me, and then I reached out to Jessica Jackson and Erin Haney. We started putting policy together. I hear folks being sometimes disenchanted with politics, but politics is where we exercise that power. That is our collective voice. Right. You don't get that, but you don't have the privilege not to be engaged in politics. Too many people died and bled in this country for me to be in this position. We have to, every day I make a compromise. Anybody that's married, come on now. I've been married 19 years. I compromise every day. We don't agree on nothing, but we married, okay? So there's going to be times that we're not going to always get along on every single thing, but we have to make sure that we do the majority of the good that we can do with what we have. Right. And so when I got involved, I did the probation reform bill. We got it done with Reform's help and other local folks in our state. You know what? We had 50,000 people on probation. We had people getting violated literally for missing a phone call with their probation officer, for losing a job that they were going to every day, for not checking in or moving without telling their probation officer. So we changed that, and we call those technical violations, where folks wouldn't get all of their time back to go to jail for that, where the maximum they could get, the first time they get no jail time for a violation. The second time they get 14 days max. And then the third time, hey, you hard-headed, bro. You're going to have to do what you got to do. But we did that. Meek Mill came in for the bill signing. Michael Rubin, Reform was big on it, and it was amazing. But it just goes to show you, we got so many folks that care about these issues. I want to shout out, some of the folks with these brand names. Great, Joakim Noah. I'm a fan, even though I was rooting against Florida at the time, bro. But I'm an SEC dude. Aggie, I'm a Texas A&M Aggie. You whoop my ass every chance you got. But we need folks to stand up and come out for us, because we don't have that constituency that people want to stand up. So we did that. Then the second thing I was focused on was making sure that we change the way we did earn sentence credits. So in Virginia, it used to be you had to do 85% of your time no matter what. So we changed. I introduced a bill that said that if you're doing what you're supposed to do in prison, you're getting training, you're getting counseling, you're staying offense free while you're there, then you can get up to half your time off. That bill passed, so a lot of fighting, a lot of infighting. That bill passed. We literally just shut down 4 prisons because we let so many out of jail, saving us $25 million a year. And guess what? Our recidivism rate didn't go up. Our recidivism rate stayed right where it is, nice and low. We second lowest recidivism in the country. So you can be smart on criminal justice. You can help impact families. You can put people back in their communities in a safe way. And you don't have to be ashamed and quiet about doing it. And I think we need to, I don't think I would be Speaker of the House if I had not come in as a freshman championing these issues. I ran on criminal justice reform because I had been impacted on criminal justice reform, and I was in the system and I saw so many people who had no business being in jail.
That's right.
You know what I mean? No business being in jail. When I caught my case, I was in my 3rd year law school. I'm the only brother y'all know ever got arrested in a law library studying. Okay? I'm telling y'all, and so I thought I was gonna get a slap on the wrist. I got cracked in my head. I still remember when my mother was in the courtroom and the judge said 10 years, and she yelped out in pain. But I'm so proud this year when I was sworn in as the first Black speaker, that same mother was sitting in there yelping in joy. So I'm just letting y'all know we need to tell your story, because as much as you think it's something to be ashamed about, and tell your family story. That empowers people. And so if you want power, if you really want to make change in this thing, and we have to speak up, because some people think they're alone. Some people think they're the only one out here doing this work. And so we need to make sure that we're championing everybody. Tell these stories. Own your story. I own my story. And they can't tell me nothing about what happened to me that's going to make me embarrassed.
That's right.
That's past. That happened 30 years ago, bro. That's a you problem. If you bringing my past up, that's a you problem, not a me problem. So we need to make sure that we're letting folks understand that, and we need to give our kids hope. Don't give up on your kids, man. I'm so glad my mother didn't give up on me when this happened. Don't give up on your kids. Don't give up on these kids. I know they bad as hell right now. They're going to grow up. They're going to grow up. We got to keep letting them know what's going on, because they're going to grow up. And we need to stay engaged, and then they will listen. When they know you care, they listen. They don't listen to people that don't give a damn about them. So I'm hopeful that we'll continue to do this work. I'm excited to do this work with reform. I'm excited to do this work with my partners here and other legislators. And we just got to keep doing the work. Keep up the fight. Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Speaker. Yeah, thank you. He's gonna mic drop.
I would drop the mic, but it's too hot.
Thank you, Speaker. All right, round of applause, everyone. Incredible. And we're going to just continue going right through, because as amazing as that was, every single legislator up here has such an amazing connection to this issue, an amazing story, and an amazing leadership style that has allowed them to work so well and really make change happen. So I want to go next to Speaker Gordon Booth. Yes, Speaker Gordon Booth, who has been just an incredible leader on this issue. Her story is incredible. Who she is as a leader is so incredibly inspiring. I think watching her shepherd a bill through, watching her convince people so passionately why this issue is not just important for people who it impacts directly, but important for everybody who wants public safety. It was genuinely an honor to get to work with her. And so I'm hoping that you could tell us a little bit about what it's like to focus on criminal justice reform in Illinois, what it's been like to withstand some of the attacks from all of the progress that you guys have made, and what you're looking to do in terms of more progress there.
Yeah, sure. It's so good to be with you all in this space on this historic night in our country. Like a lot of you in this room, I came into this space because of what happened to me and what happened in my family. My husband and I, my husband's here in the front row in the blue suit. He's mine. We were pregnant with our daughter, who is now 10 years old, and I was 9.5. To me, it's 10 months, right? For all the ladies in the room who know, right? It's 10 months, but I was 2 weeks away from delivery, and we received a phone call one morning at about 2:30 a.m. telling us to get to the hospital. All of you all that have received that devastating phone call, you never forget that feeling. Being in the car, driving to the hospital, hoping that there was a mistake. You get to the hospital, you hope that they're going to tell you, oh, no, it's not you. Not only did they say, yes, he's here, they ushered us into one of those small chaplain rooms, only to be there for maybe 30 minutes until 3 doctors walked into the room. They took their hat off their head. They put it on their chest. They looked us square in the eye and they said, "We've done all that we can do, but he is gone." It's devastating. It's crushing. And it changes you forever. And the reality of it is the young man that took our son's life, we both knew him. My husband did prison ministry with his parents. My brother used to be engaged to his sister, but he didn't know DJ because DJ had grown up. And the reality is that so many people within our community are walking around broken, defeated, and they're turning to other means to try to fill that cup. And the reality is that what we began to deal with on our journey, right? Because it's a very real journey, is that we obviously, all of us that are crime survivors, you want the people to, there have to be consequences in this world. But we also know that we have to have a system that catches people before they get to that place. We have to catch people that are broken. We have to catch people and give them an alternative path so that they can deal with their trauma by not traumatizing another family. So in Illinois, what we did is, in partnership with Seema Sadanan, who's in the back of the room, we passed the most transformative criminal justice reform, bipartisan criminal justice reform bill in Illinois history in 2017. Because of that legislation, we were able to do away with over 10,000 mandatory minimums. We were able to create trauma recovery centers that now exist, all 17 across the entire state of Illinois. We were also able to decarcerate the Illinois Department of Corrections by more than 20,000. We then took that money that we were spending in the Department of Corrections, we took that $20 million investment, put it into something called the Workforce Equity Initiative that now focuses on largely Black communities to ensure that we're taking people who are calcified in poverty, who want to move their lives forward and put them in head of household jobs by training them, not over the course of 4 to 5 years, but 6 to 9 months. We provide them with transportation. We provide them with childcare, all the things that can divert someone's dream to get to the next destination. And so we're doing all of that. And in that short time, even in spite of the pandemic, we have been able to take 12,000 largely Black and brown men and women out of poverty and put them into head of household jobs making more than $75,000 a year. So when we talk about criminal justice reform, certainly it's about mandatory release. It's about probation. It's about parole. It's about sentencing credits, but it's also healthcare. It's also jobs. It's also ensuring that we have adequate housing. This work has to have a constituency. And in order to build that constituency, we have to look at the underlying issues of what is making folks go into the life. If we are able to eradicate those challenges and those problems, always remaining with our eye on the prize, we can make real things happen.
Amazing. And so we have 2 more legislators. I know that we are short on time, but these folks are incredible. So I want to make sure that we get to everyone. So we're doing just like we did, 1 question for each person. So Assemblymember Haney, and then we're going to close out with Representative Jordan Harris. So Assemblymember Haney from California. I keep just saying this is my brother, so but I'm going to give him the proper introduction, give him the respect he's due. Obviously, you know, he does incredible work. I'm not that I'm biased, but his work. He started one of the first bipartisan organizations that focused exclusively on this issue. So with Jessica Jackson and Van Jones, they co-founded Cut 50, which was responsible for First Step Act, along with many, many other great organizations. But you know, the most transformative federal legislation on this issue. And since then, in any elected position he's had, he has focused on this issue, whether it's been school board, supervisor, now assembly member. And so with this convention in particular, there's a lot of focus on criminal justice, as Jessica mentioned, and there's also a lot of focus on California, and specifically San Francisco, our hometown. So I'm hoping, Matt, that you can tell everyone a little bit about what it's been like to make progress, how you've had some incredible wins in California, but also the challenges you face, right? When we think of Triple Blue, we don't always think about the attacks that are coming through all of that progress.
Well, first of all, give it up for my sister and everyone for Reform. I have to say that she's a new mom, and I'm so proud of her and so proud of everyone at Reform and in this room. It's incredibly humbling to be here on this panel. I know we are, as has been said, this is such a historic night, but there are few conversations as important as this one. Just listening to the folks who are up here and the change that they've been able to make, this is the kind of conversation that we need to be having at the highest levels. These are the folks who should be on the stage at the Democratic National Convention, and when Kamala Harris becomes the next president, who need to be at the center of the conversation. We have an opportunity, I think, with a new president. I hope I'm speaking that into existence. Kamala Harris is somebody that I've known for over 15 years. I worked for her as district attorney. I worked for her campaign for attorney general. We know her very well in San Francisco. She understands these issues firsthand. And so we have an opportunity, I hope, to be able to have at the highest level somebody who will listen, who understands, and who will bring this reform agenda that we're seeing happen state by state to the federal level. In California, we have some things to be proud of, and we have some things that are concerning, and maybe can offer some insight into what is happening across the country. We had our governor, Gavin Newsom, announce that our delegates were going to go to Kamala Harris. When he did that, it was pretty cool. It wasn't Lil Jon, but when he was there, he said something that I think was important, which he said, the future happens here first. And that is often true in California, for better or worse. Unfortunately, California was one of the first states to fully embrace mass incarceration in its worst, most cruel, most awful forms. From 1980 to 2006, our prison population increased sevenfold. One of the largest increases across the country. It brought us to having a prison population that was second only to Texas. And California had all the worst aspects of it. 3 strikes in California. That then went national. Solitary confinement, national. All of these things, supermax prisons. And so we have this history of really the worst and cruel forms of mass incarceration. But then something happened in California over the last 20 years. Around the time that Kamala Harris was elected to district attorney, we started to see a movement for criminal justice reform in California that, with all due respect to my friend Kamala Harris, wasn't led by district attorneys, was led by people who are directly impacted. Family members, formerly incarcerated people, organizing, coming up to the Capitol by the thousands. And so then what did we see in California finally? We started to see sentencing reform. We started to see things like Prop 47, which was an incredible reform that changed the focus in California's sentencing law from sending people to prison to actually sending them to get help and support and treatment. And over and over again, California finally started to move in the other direction. And we went from having over 160,000 people in prison in 2006 to right now being close to 90,000. That's still too many, but that's 80,000 less people locked up in California. And it happened because of these reforms, and not just sentencing reforms like Prop 47, but laws that reform this organization passed to say that we shouldn't be sending people to prison for minor technical violations for probation and parole, which was happening, and actually responsible for a huge proportion of the total folks who were being locked up, and all of the barriers and challenges that came with that. So we're proud of that, and we're proud of what we were able to do there, and a lot of the things about those laws were replicated across the state, or across the country. And I'll say this, At the time that we reduced our prison population by that amount, our crime rate also plummeted. We have the lowest violent and property crime rates in California than we had since the 1960s. Lowest murder rate that we've had since then. So we can do this right. We can provide alternatives and treatment and not lock people up and actually get them help, and crime will go down. I will end with this because there are things that are happening in California that I know are happening around the country as well. We have a ballot measure right now that was put on by district attorneys, by retailers, to basically overturn Prop 47. That was responsible for so much of that change. They are now using this moment of fear and ignorance and misinformation and taking these viral clips that you may have seen of somebody in San Francisco retailer. Despite the fact that crime is down, people think crime is way up because they've seen a video somewhere and because they're taking advantage of it. And actually, they're threatened by this because of its success. Because it's working and people are free and people are contributing to their communities that they want to attack and they want to come after, that's what is threatening to them. And that's why they're coming after California. So there's a ballot measure right now, Prop 36, which would overturn Prop 47. And unfortunately, it's polling 20, 30 points ahead. So we have a big challenge there. And I think this is why the movement and the work of the folks who are up here and of Reform and of all of you is so important, because even as we make progress, that progress, as you all know much better than I do, is such a threat to folks. And in California, we're going to fight it. But what I'm sure of is we're much stronger when we fight it all together.
That's right.
In all 50 states, in the White House, and make sure our new president listens to us and includes all of you in that, because this fight could not be more important. And thank you all for being here, and thank you for your leadership.
That's right. All right. Thank you, Matt. Representative Jordan Harris. There we go. Yes. I have to say, Representative Harris was the first legislator that I had the honor of working with, and I was with Reform since it started. And that just tells you how committed he is to this issue, how committed he is to the community, and how willing he is to step up and be a leader on these issues, even when it's not popular, right? So long before people were lined up and wanting to come out to those rallies, Representative Harris was leading on this issue. And over the last 4 or 5 years, maybe 5 years, I guess, we were able to pass an incredible bill in Pennsylvania, really due to his commitment to bipartisanship, to reaching across the aisle, and to really making change. So if you can tell us, Representative Harris, what it's like to do this work in Pennsylvania, particularly with such a divided legislature, that would be incredibly enlightening.
So thank you so much to my friends at Reform for putting this together. Honored to be up here with such champions on this issue. Look, criminal justice reform started for me when I first got elected, quite honestly, because I had homies who wanted to get jobs and they just couldn't get jobs because of their criminal records. I would hear, my friends like, can you plug me in here? Can you plug me in there? And you would try, and then a month later, they would get denied because of their criminal record. So it changed. Before I could help somebody, I would have to say, what you got on your record? Like, that was the prerequisite for me being able to take somebody from my community who I've known my whole life, who I knew was a good person, from getting them gainfully employed so that they could take care of their families. I had to find out what was on their criminal record. So what we did, the first piece of legislation that we worked on to start this whole criminal justice piece in Pennsylvania was a bill called Clean Slate. There are many other states. There are many other states who have done it since. We did it first. I got you. Just to be clear, Pennsylvania, we are the authors, the alphas of Clean Slate. Although I'm a Sigma. Put your hand down, Dave. No, I'm a Sigma, Okay, so I see you. I see the haters. Anyway, That's some black Greek love. Sorry. If you missed that in school, you missed a good time. Anyway, we started Clean Slate in Pennsylvania because, we believed sincerely that people deserve a second chance. And what I always say is that you can't judge a person by the worst day of their life. And typically, a person who has a criminal record, what they did was the worst day of their life. We passed Clean Slate in 2018. Since then, more than 45 million criminal records have been sealed in the state of Pennsylvania. We've affected more than 1 million Pennsylvanians. More than 13 states across this country have replicated what we did in Pennsylvania. And there's also a push for a federal clean slate law by Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester. So we moved on from clean slate to working on probation reform because, quite honestly, Meek is from Philly. You know what I mean? If you Philly, you know Meek. And I remember there was a rally outside the Criminal Justice Center. It was raining, and we were out there in the rain rallying. And for me, it wasn't just about Meek, but it was about Robert Williams. Okay? Because while we all know Meek, I know millions of Robert Williams across the city and Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and across the country who were on probation. And for every little single thing, they could go right back to prison. It made absolutely no sense to me. It cost us absolutely too much money, and it made none of us safer, right? So we work with the Reform Alliance to get probation reform done. Now, unlike Illinois, we got Republicans, real Republicans in Pennsylvania who were not as forgiving as some of us. I tell people all the time, the good Lord may be forgiven, but the criminal justice system ain't. And while many of my friends professed Christ, they were not Christ-like. And so the criminal justice system was more punitive than it was restorative, right? So we had to work to convince my colleagues that this was the right thing to do. Now, I did have some who wanted to do it because of the finances. I had some who did come along because, I had one brother who did tell me, he was like, I'm going to do this because of Jesus. And I was like, praise the Lord, brother, whatever gets you to the table, and we were able to get it done. Now, here's the thing. There's some folks that say we didn't go far enough, and I understand that, right? But what we did in Clean Slate is the same thing we're going to do in probation. What I've learned in politics is sometimes you got to take what you can get at that moment and then go back and continue to get things done. So here's the thing. Since we are in Chicago and this is the DNC, I'm sure my governor who's going to come up here, he's going to tell you, I'm going to tell you exactly what he's going to say. I'm the only governor to serve over a divided legislature. Y'all, he going to come up here and say that. And when he says it, I want y'all to laugh because y'all heard me say, ah! Josh Shapiro's, ladies and gentlemen. That's my man. I'm saying, all right. But here's the thing. Since we are here in Chicago, and this is the DNC, and this is a historic moment, here's what we have to do, though. And this is where the advocacy comes into play. Okay. We have to change our justice system to where it's not just about punitive, a punitive system where we're mad at people, but a system that is actually about correcting actions. Yes. Okay? Yes. I want y'all to hear what I said. Our justice system is set up because we're mad at people. Understand this. We got a police to arrest you. We have district attorneys to prosecute you. We have judges to sentence you. We have correctional officers to monitor you. We have probation and parole officers to see you when you get out. But how many of us have a system to actually keep people home, to make sure that they don't go back, to actually make the connection between the services that men and women need when they come home so that they can stay there? We have to blow up the system as we know it and change it so that we can keep more people home and stop sending them back. It's not the system of correction if you have a high recidivism rate. That means we're doing something wrong. And I don't know what system you can have that continues to have failure and everybody else is just okay with it. The concept of this is just a bad person is a flawed concept. It allows us to pat ourselves on the back for the little things we do without solving the big problems that we have. So I know I got to go. I know we got to go. I know we took up time. I see Josh and Westmore on the side. But criminal justice reform is the civil rights issue of our time. God bless you.